Hello, I'm Janet Blount, career coach and owner of Careers Are Us. Today I have Nicole Hart, graphic designer and owner of Hart Graphic Design. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Nicole will help me demonstrate the value of informational interviews when you're gathering information about a variety of careers. Now, before we get started, let me set the stage. Let's say you're interested in becoming a graphic designer. You've done the research that we've talked about in a previous video using online research tools such as the Occupational Outlook Handbook and ONET, but you still want some additional information. And maybe you read an article about Nicole, or maybe she went to your college, but somehow you connected with Nicole Hart and you have requested an opportunity to talk to her just briefly to find out more about this particular career so that you can make an informed choice. So now, Nicole and I will go through just a handful of questions. If you go online, there are hundreds of questions that you can ask during an informational interview. But Nicole and I will just talk about 10, use about 10 of those questions. So Nicole, thanks again for helping us, and we will get started now with those questions. Nicole, can you tell me a bit about your career path?
Sure. So I am a graphic designer. I've worked full-time as a graphic designer as well as freelancing part-time for my business, which is Hart Graphic Design. I had originally began freelancing after finishing undergrad as a way to make a little extra money while I was job searching for full-time opportunities. While freelancing, this gave me an opportunity to create portfolio pieces that I could include in my portfolio to show during the interview process for full-time opportunities. And once I began working full-time, I continued freelancing as a way to keep, creativity and flexibility in the projects that I was working on that really interested me.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you become interested in the field?
I've always had an interest in art and creating things from a young age. So around middle school age, I would actually, decorate my notebook and my binders, those little binders with the clear front and back. I would create things on the computer and print them out and, decorate my binder. So I would ask my mom, like, what can I do that would allow me to create things on the computer? Like, whatever that is, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we did some research and we came across the graphic design field. And that's what I've wanted to do ever since. So I later on went to attend a high school that had a computer graphics program and later attended college and majored in graphic design. So
Wonderful, wonderful. So you implemented some of the things that I talked about just briefly. You and your mother did some research based on your interests, and then you determined that graphic design was a path that you might be interested in.
mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned education. What type of education, training, or background does your job require?
So most positions in the graphic design field, they require either an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree in graphic design or a related program.
Mm-hmm.
They also require experience with the Adobe Creative Cloud software, and that's the industry standard software that you'll use as a designer. Mm-hmm. So that includes Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Mm-hmm. And they also require proven graphic design skills. So this is where a portfolio comes in. You should, as a design student, make sure that you are keeping your design projects, make sure that you're revisiting them as your skills improve and polish them to include those in your portfolio, and also work on just personal projects that interest you to enhance your portfolio as well.
Mhm. Mm.
Because when you are applying and interviewing for these design positions, they're going to want you to send over your portfolio and show them in the interview.
Mhm. 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 Now, where did you go to school? And I think you mentioned that you majored in graphic design. Is that what you just said just a moment ago?
Yes. So I went to Salisbury University,
Mm.
which is on the Eastern Shore of Maryland,
Mhm.
where I received a Bachelor's of Fine Arts
Mm.
in graphic design.
Mhm.
I also minored in marketing, and then I later attended Hood College in Frederick, Maryland, and
Mhm.
received a master's in marketing. So,
Mm.
however, minors and master's degrees are not necessary for the graphic design field. But for me personally, I already had that interest in business and specifically in marketing.
Mhm.
So, and I have found that the marketing knowledge gives me insight as to how certain things are marketed or advertised in certain ways from both the design and the business aspect.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, what skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential for success in graphic designs?
So creativity is one of, if not the most important skill as a graphic designer. You have to be creative.
Mhm.
Also communication skills. So when you're working with those clients on a project, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to ask certain questions to effectively work with the client so they can have the product that they're looking for in the end result. Also typography. So understanding the different types of fonts and typefaces and how to utilize them properly. And also Adobe Creative applications that I mentioned before. All design projects are pretty much created using one of those applications.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, what are some of the common career paths in this field?
Sure. So with a design degree, you can become, of course, a graphic designer.
Mhm.
And there are multiple levels. Some companies have junior graphic designers, which is more of an entry level position.
Mhm.
There are senior graphic designers that you could become a production artist, which is more so not designing as much, but preparing the design files to go to print. So making sure the dimensions are correct, making sure the colors and everything are correct before sending them to the printer.
Mhm.
You can be a web designer, an art director, creative director, which are more managerial level positions. And
Mhm.
then there's also a freelance graphic designer.
Wow. So it sounds as though there are tremendous opportunities in this field.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it sounds as though you had tremendous support from your mother. Um, if if there are students who are talented and a person says to them, "Oh, you can't make a living doing that," you are a prime example that you can. Is that right?
You can. And graphic design, as I, listed the different career paths, you can do multiple things with that degree. So you don't always have to, stick with the graphic design specifically, or you could do both, working full time, being freelance, but you just definitely have to just learn what you want to do and
Mm.
just, stick
Mhm.
with that.
Before you went to college or while you were in college, did you have internships in this particular field or
My internship, I actually worked, it was a sign shop, so Signs by Tomorrow. I don't know if they're still
I
around.
know Science by
Uh,
Tomorrow.
yeah, I interned at Signs by Tomorrow, so I would design the things that were being printed because, it's not just printing, they have design services. So
Mhm.
I was designing the flyers for people, the banners and things. And then once I designed them, they'd be printed right there. So
Mhm.
what I did for my internship. And there's wide, variety of internships that you can do. You can intern with retail companies. There's a lot of
Mm.
different opportunities.
What do you enjoy most about the work you do?
I enjoyed the most just the opportunity to be creative because that's what I like to do. I like, playing with different colors and layouts and creating logos, working on a variety of projects. So that's print projects,
Mm,
digital, social media graphics,
mhm,
branding, web design, and being able to work with different types of people and different businesses as a freelancer,
mhm,
and also just creating things that people are genuinely excited about. So if that's, their branding or their new logo for their business, or if it's flyer design for their upcoming event. So that's what I like the most about it.
mhm, What do you enjoy least about it?
I would say the most challenging part
Okay.
would be working with clients who don't necessarily know what they want.
Mhm,
And as a designer, it's inevitable. You're going to have, projects where it's not really clear from the beginning.
mhm,
And this is where that communication skill comes in because um, it helps you listen. It helps you to process the feedback that you're receiving. And
mhm,
it also helps you just know the types of questions to ask to
mhm,
kind of guide the client and the project so it is a successful project. And that comes with time and
mhm,
experience.
mhm, mhm. What do you wish you had known when you were first starting out in this career?
I wish that I would have known how competitive the field is.
Mm,
It is competitive, so that's where having your portfolio comes in handy with a variety of projects. So the more, different types of projects you know how to do, the better because it helps set you apart from the other designers. So having that variety to show during your interviews. Um, and I also wish I knew that having web design experience or skills would be helpful
mhm,
because in my program at Salisbury, web design wasn't mandatory. It
mhm,
was an elective, so it was optional.
mhm,
So not everyone took, the web design course, but a lot of graphic design positions now want someone who has that web design experience
mhm,
or, some working knowledge of coding or HTML.
mhm,
So that is definitely something to keep in mind
mhm,
when you're doing your coursework.
mhm. That's going to be extremely helpful to somebody viewing this video, Nicole. Let me ask, in addition to doing the internship at Signs, what was
Signs
it?
by tomorrow.
Signs by Tomorrow, did you have other opportunities as
Um,
far as internships?
that was my main internship. So
Mm,
that was the only internship that I did while in
mm.
school.
Did the school help you find that, or did you have to find it on your own?
Yes, they had, I mean, you could find your own internship and, get it signed off on, but they definitely had good resources in place and lists of companies around town because it was in Salisbury that I did the internship. They
Mm,
had resources of different companies that students had interned with before and
mm,
that they had relationships with.
mhm,
So I would definitely make sure that you check with your school if they have resources before, you
mm,
know,
mm.
trying to find one on your own.
Any words of wisdom on that, on what you should look for when you're choosing a school in this particular career?
Definitely do your research.
Mm,
There's tons of information on the internet as to where schools are ranked or where certain programs are ranked.
mhm,
And that's kind of how I made my decision because Salisbury did have a good graphic design position that wasn't necessarily at an art school because you can go to art school, which
mm,
is more, tailored to the art curriculum.
mhm,
So definitely do your research.
mhm, mhm. Nicole, thank you so much for helping me today.
No problem. Thanks
And
for having me.
thank you. Thank you. Today, we've demonstrated another career exploration tool, the informational interview. In a previous video, I talked about using online research tools. Thank you for joining us as we work together to answer the question, where are the jobs and how do we prepare our children for them? Thank you again for joining us. And before we go, Nicole, would you like to share your website address so that people can look at the work that you've done?
Sure. So my website is www.hart, H-A-R-T, graphicdes.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again, Nicole. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And please, please be safe.